it's not the symptom that's the problem. It's the issue that's causing the symptom. And in this case, especially as it relates to joint-related problems, it represents a certain level of damage over time that gets progressively worse. But if the problem's been there for a long period of time, it's chronic. First, we have to define what chronicity really means, and that really just means that it's been there for a long time. It may come and go. We may go through periods of exacerbation and remission where our body's able to deal with things appropriately, but then ultimately the condition continues to progress towards end stage. This is true for a wide variety of conditions. I think as it relates to joint problems, the reason that, patients feel like, things just don't work for them is because of the relative nature of the chronic condition. So imagine like the most common chronic joint-related issue would be arthritis. It takes quite some time for that to develop, but we don't usually see symptoms until it gets to a point where it's really significant. So, it's like the alignment on a car. If the alignment's off, the wheels are going to wear out. How fast you drive the car will determine how fast the wheels wear out. But at the end of the day, what happens with most patients is, I've spoken to thousands of patients at this point, and they usually tell me, look, I stepped off the curb and all of a sudden I had knee pain, or, I reached back to get something from the back seat in my car and all of a sudden my shoulder blew out, or I slept wrong. And I always say to them, like, did you really sleep wrong? Or, have you slept the same for, thousands of nights over the course of your life? It's not the act of stepping off the curb or reaching in the back seat of your car that caused the problem. It's analogous to if you flush your toilet and the pipe bursts in your house, you flushed your toilet a million times. The pipe became slowly damaged over time. Maybe the seals in the pipe got dried out, and then it reached a threshold where all of a sudden we had this symptomatic event. And then what happens is you end up at the doctor's office, right? And the doctor says, look, you have arthritis. Here's some medication, or here's a cortisone injection. And, that tends to help to some degree, at least in the beginning stages. And it works really well. Like, it gets rid of our pain. It makes us really comfortable. The problem is once that wears off, the damage will typically get progressively worse, and now the problem's back again. So patients feel like there's something wrong with them inherently because they're not getting better or they're not able to solve their problem. And the real issue with that is what we're looking for is not what those tools and resources can provide, right? So short-term tools are going to be short-term, and unfortunately they come with attacks, and that's typically the progression of that condition. I understand where patients are coming from. They feel like, maybe there's something wrong with them because essentially things aren't working, but what they haven't considered is what their goals are and what tools and resources would be appropriate to achieving those goals. If we work in the short-term environment, we just have to understand that we're only going to get short-term results, and the condition is always going to be with us because that's the relative nature of a chronic condition. The real issue is that there are certain tissues in our body that just don't have the capacity to heal. So those tissues are typically the connective tissues in our joints. They don't have a whole lot of blood supply. They're really dense connective tissue. As we age, we lose the ability to repair those over time. So that's why it seems like it's a normal sign of aging, but it's not. It's a normal sign of wear and tear over time. And if we continue to address symptoms, then, we're always going to allow for the progression of that condition.